Hi, my name's Gary Bates. I'm the CEO of Creation Ministries International.
And I'm Dr. Robert Carter. I'm one of the senior scientists at Creation Ministries International.
And we're both the producers of a project called Evolution's Achilles Heels. It's a book and DVD project. And what we've tried to do as part of this project is discuss what people think, what most people have been led to believe are the perceived strengths of evolution, things like natural selection, genetics, the origin of life, the fossil record, and so on. And it's pretty exciting, Rob. I sat in obviously as part of this project, and we assembled quite an array of scientists in this.
Yeah, currently we have 15 or so PhD scientists that we've already interviewed for our Evolution's Achilles Heels DVD documentary, and we're really excited about the things that those men said, because these are men who have been trained in secular universities. They have PhDs from some prestigious colleges around the world, and yet each one of these people, for their own reasons, has rejected evolutionary theory as their way of explaining history.
Darwin dissenters.
They're all Darwin dissenters, every one of them.
Yeah, well, that's interesting. So, for example, and people might be wondering why do we want to do this? Why do we show Darwin dissenters? Are we into some sort of conspiratorial notions or something like this? But most people, the big issue is most people, just like you and me, I'm not a scientist, I'm a layperson, but you're a PhD biologist, marine biologist studying genetics. Doesn't matter. We've all been taught evolution was a fact. In high school, in the media every day, on the TVs, I turn on the Discovery channel. We've all been taught evolution as a fact. In fact, we'd go as far to say we're taught it to the exclusion of everything else. And what we're trying to say in this DVD and in the book is there are actually lots of good evidence to suggest that, Darwinism is in fact not the science that people think it's cracked up to be.
Yeah, but instead of being an apologetic for the biblical model or for creationism, what we did was we took each one of these scientists and we said, okay, in your field, according to your expertise, what can evolution not answer? What is the absolute worst thing that evolution has to handle in your discipline? And so that's why we call it Evolution's Achilles Heels. Now, in history, in Greek mythology, Achilles was a warrior whose goddess mother, Athena, had dipped him in the river Styx. And yet, he was supposedly invulnerable, except the fact that she had to hold him by the heel. So he had one weak spot, and that's actually what led to his undoing. He got shot in the back of the heel, and he bled to death. Well, what we've done is we've set up a number of evolution's Achilles heels. So all these different weaknesses, any one of them is a fatal flaw. And yet when we line them all up, we feel it's a powerful antidote to evolutionary theory.
I'd like to say, though, that we don't do it in a polemical way.
No, not at all.
I think it's a very reasonable, rational debate by using guys who are qualified in their fields, experts in their fields, to talk about this. We're kind of revisiting, in a sense, aren't we, what we're taught. And a classic example, natural selection. Wherever you and I go on ministry, people say, well, hang on, natural selection's real. We say, yes, it is real. A change over time. We see creatures change over time. Isn't that evolution? And so there's an example of how it's kind of half the story, isn't it, that people get. So we're going to show people a clip now.
Oh, it's a good clip.
Just to give you an example of some of these scientists, these biologists, talking about natural selection.
The first time that I saw a creation presentation on natural selection, I was just amazed at my blindness prior to that, in not realizing that natural selection can't actually generate anything new. It can only operate on whatever is existing, and it can only operate to remove what is existing. And so the realization that natural selection is real, we observe it, but it doesn't actually produce new information, new genetic information, was an absolute bombshell to me.
And so hopefully people can see that's the type of style that we're trying to adopt in this presentation. And what we're trying to do is we're not trying to snipe at these little arguments that so much of this debate is taken up with. What we're really trying to do is cut to the chase and get down to the bare bones and let us analyze the absolutely most critical questions for evolutionary theory, and do those questions stack up to scientific knowledge.
Yeah, so for example, we're not arguing of whether a certain fossil is a missing link or a candidate for evolutionary transitions, we'd say, hang on, let's look at the entirety of the fossil record. You know, Darwinism in its purest form has been around 150 years. He predicted we'd find the fossils. Is that the particular case?
You know, it's funny because Darwinism as basically a Victorian science, it has not measured up to scientific scrutiny of late. I mean, the modern scientific revolution is arguing strongly against Darwin's basic ideas, and it's another thing that we try to bring out.
Yeah, genetics, correct me if I'm wrong, but it probably really wasn't a scientific discipline in Darwin's day. I mean, he wouldn't have known much about the complexity of the cell.
He invented evolutionary science in a total vacuum of understanding of the very thing that drove evolution, which is genetics.
Yeah, so today, of course, modern biology is probably more like information technology, isn't it? When we look at the study of the cell and DNA. And folks, on this documentary, we've got Dr. John Sanford appearing, a former Cornell University professor, the inventor of the ballistic gene gun.
You know what's really funny? When I was in grad school, we were genetically modifying organisms, and we used to laugh at how easy our life would be if we could just afford one of those multi-million-dollar gene guns to get our genes into the fish or whatever we were working with.
Yeah, well, his invention has a practical use in everyday life. People watching this have probably eaten food that was modified by his invention. Well, he's an expert on genetics, and so listen to what he has to say here, just a short clip about the information content in the cell.
So 2 years ago, I organized a symposium at Cornell University, and the topic was biological information. And so we had 29 scientists come in, and we had 29 scientific papers presented. And all of the scientists agreed on one thing, and that is that information is fundamental to our understanding of what life is. Information is, in a sense, what makes life life. And I'm not just talking about information like data. I'm talking about information networks, communication networks within the cell. How did this incredible communication network that's even present in the simplest cell, how did it arise? Well, you need three things for it to arise. Number one, you need a language. You can't even conceive of a communication system until there's a language, because there's senders and receivers in the cell. Secondly, you need communication channels or networks. It's a little bit like the hardware that enables the internet.
Actually, Rob, another very famous scientist we have, it's certainly famous in Christian circles, is Dr. Jonathan Sarfati, a chemist, arguably one of the leading creation apologists in the world today, has a huge body of work. His book, Refuting Evolution, what a great title, is in fact still the largest selling creation book of all time.
I was reading Jonathan's stuff for years before I came to work for Creation Ministries.
Yeah. Well, we get Jonathan to talk about the origin of life, something he's qualified to talk about as a chemist. And kind of that's one of the most intractable problems, isn't it, for evolution? I mean, they try to say that the origin of life has nothing to do with evolution, but what would be your take on that?
I think that section of the book and the DVD is probably our most persuasive argument against evolutionary theory. I think he really hit it out of the ballpark with that one. It's powerful.
So the discussion is, how did simple, relatively simple inorganic chemicals form the first, amino acids, proteins, the first cell?
And what physical law dictates that would even be possible? And it's just quite clear from what we present that everything in science and in biology and chemistry and physics and probability, information theory is all arguing against naturalistic origins of life
from
scenarios.
What we do know.
From what we do know, not from what we wish to be true. From what we know, everything's pointing in the other direction.
But what's interesting is a lot of people might not know that Jonathan is actually Jewish. Mm-hmm. He's a Messianic Jew, and the name Sarfati means Frenchman in Hebrew.
That's right.
But at the end of the DVD, we actually have a section towards the end about the ethical issues that present themselves with evolutionary theory. It's just more than this argument about science. If we're nothing more than kind of, rearranged molecules over millions of years, is there any ultimate meaning and purpose?
That's a great question.
To our life? And Jonathan kind of talks something that was close to his heart about the Holocaust.
Oh yeah. He lost family members, or his parents and grandparents lost people they knew during the Holocaust.
And of course, Nazism, Hitler really tried to invoke firsthand, and he really believed that natural selection was the mechanism, and he tried to cull and obviously create a master race based on this.
Most people don't realize that Nazi society was evolution from top to bottom. I mean, the entire mentality of the master race was an evolutionary concept.
So here's a clip from Jonathan just talking about this, because he talks about some of the trials after the war, the Nuremberg trials, and in their own belief system, were the Nazis actually doing anything wrong?
So after the war, the leading Nazis were put on trial. But some of them claimed they did nothing wrong because the laws of our country said it was okay to kill Jews. So on what grounds can you put them on trial? Only if there's a higher morality than national law. But where can this morality come from if not from the creator of humanity? If we just rearrange pond scum, there's no such thing as a higher law. Now, there's some moral implications there. If the creator made us, then he owns us and has a right to make the rules for us. But if things made themselves, then there's no right or wrong. We're just really bags of rearranged pond scum. So what is murder? It's just one bag of chemicals impacting another bag of chemicals. Science can't tell you that murder is right or wrong. It can tell you that this action will kill something. It won't tell you that it's right or wrong.
So anyway, that's just a little taste, a little snippet, a foretaste, if you like, of what is to come in the DVD. And there's been already, we're not finished, many hundreds of hours of work put into this. All made possible, of course, by the donations of Creation Ministries International supporters.
And
so,
we thank you very much for that. This would be impossible without your support.
So anyway, but if you're not a Darwin descent and you're looking at this, we'd like to encourage you to watch it.
Not just watch the video, but also get the book, because the book is the same order of events, but with a lot more detail than we're able to present in a 90-minute or so video production.
Sure. Now, we know, as former revolutionists ourselves, the information can be confronting, and maybe you think, I don't want to listen to any of that, but a little bit of a challenge to you, because the information really goes to the heart of our existence. Why are we here? Where did we come from? These are big picture questions that we believe every single person really needs to come to grips with. But the challenge is, most people have kind of a parody of why people like Rob and I and our colleagues, PhD scientists in the DVD, believe what they do. And so it's just an opportunity, I think, for you to information gather and actually find out why creationists also believe what they believe from their own mouths, if you like.
It's not what most people expect. I mean, when I hear people who don't agree with me saying, "Oh, you just believe whatever for this reason," when they say for this reason, they almost never get it right.
That's true. That's true. So anyway, so there's a foretaste, and hopefully there'll be another installment to come as we get nearer to the completion of the project. So thanks for watching.